So with Retatrutide, so this is one that I have heard a lot of competitors using, a lot of pro competitors, and especially with individuals who book me for like a one-time consult just for supplements and PEDs. Uh, it's it's very interesting because it's not one I think a lot of people are comfortable about talking about. Generally, I've found that like there is almost like this stigma, especially like I've heard it largely from the male side that like women shouldn't use this, and like if you're using it, you're just like making your prep easier. And it's kind of ironic to me. I've talked about this on the podcast so many times. I'm like, wait, so like using anabolics at high doses isn't making your prep easier? Like you're running a gram of tren. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
it's to each is their own. I think it kind of like highlights almost an irony when it comes to old
Double
school body.
standard.
Yes, like old school bodybuilding and new school, but realistically, like this is one I do see a use for in prep and even post diet, which that I guess I'll say I have two athletes right now who are in competition prep, and that was something that we put in place towards the end of their prep because realistically the hunger was starting to become problematic and adherence hadn't broken yet, but it was like I kind of laid it out. I'm like, this is something we could put in place, but here's the risk profile. Also, we need to make sure that glucose isn't too low as it acts on a receptor that specifically is going to affect insulin, which I know for some people, like they're like, well, yes, you're in contest prep, you can push through. But when we're talking about hypoglycemia, that's not really something you push through. Like, so I would love to hear more about your experience with starting that. You said that's something that you just added in.
Yeah. So I heard also this double standard of, well, then you're not suffering. You should be suffering. You should be able to do a prep without that compound. But then the people who say this, they are using other compounds to help in their own struggles, which could be either like, let's say, oh, I have problem in sleeping, like sleeping, falling asleep. Then they take a pill to fall asleep. So yeah, it's kind of like the hypocrisy or the double standard. Oh, I can use with for my problems. I can use this compound and end the suffering, but you shouldn't. No, like again, this is a matter also like any compound there is of dosage, of properly getting yourself informed, of properly taking care that you're in a healthy position to use these compounds first, that you know where your body is at, that you don't have any previous health markers that could, yes, that could make you be in a position where you're in danger. Of course, yes. So I'm taking I started to take the minimum dosage, uh and I was getting so good results that I took that dosage in half. So because I still want to be able to enjoy a healthy appetite when I eat. I don't want to be in those terms, unhealthy terms of not eating without appetite. That's not healthy. Eating without appetite is not healthy. And we are trying to present a body that exudes health. So it doesn't make that sense. So I still want a little bit of an appetite. I just want to be able to control the emotional eating side of it. So I started with the minimum dosage, and then it went so well that I had to drop. I was doing it minimum dosage 2 times a week. Now I'm just using half of that, so it's just once a week, which is amazing. And then so what I was able to see is that um if we live in an era where we can get rid of a headache by taking a pill, an over-the-counter pill, like why would I say no to this compound that also has other benefits? Uh, so yeah, like I know there, like in every single compound there's always a risk. in terms of side effects, and that's why I'm so like into dropping the dose, even the minimum. If I can bring it down, I will do it. But also being aware that these are kind of like new compounds that are still under research, and I am kind of like continuously keeping myself informed of any information that they pull up about this. But also it's just, it's funny because so many things have been said, so many bad things have been said about compounds, but it's because people are not using them correctly. Then that's why they get this bad reputation. But when used correctly and properly and for the right reasons and in a healthy subject, in a healthy individual, it will do its intended job and it will benefit the individual. So
I think it's amazing for you to share that information. What I'll say is there is a legacy effect with GLP-1. So we've seen in literature that I think it's specifically with semaglutide, but I imagine the same thing would apply to tirzepatide and retatrutide, is that even after discontinuing, and this is obviously in obese populations, that the participants were still able to maintain that decrease in food noise for up to a year or two after, which to me is really promising, especially for individuals who do struggle with emotional eating. And personally, like I know that there is that concept around like, okay, well, this wasn't intended for y'all's population. Sure, but neither was clenbuterol, neither was Anavar. Like no one has HIV and is muscle wasting, like unless you consider prep muscle wasting, but that's still not what it's approved for, not that kind. And realistically, when we look at these GLP-1s, I do think I also agree, like if you are able to get away with a very minimal dose, that can be effective and helpful. And I even have clients who, again, like they came to me kind of already taking these drugs and they've said, they're like, I have had an uncontrollable relationship with food. And these are clients that they're not obese, but have really felt controlled by food their entire life. And even in builds, we still continue to have it in. We just lower the dose according to what their appetite needs are. And I think that's a really important point to make, is like the idea with GLP-1s isn't to starve yourself and force yourself to be anorexic because you literally can't eat. That's not conducive with the look that you want to bring to stage or the look really anyone wants to bring to stage. That's not how you're going to win a pro bikini show. And I think a lot of people assume like, oh, well, if you're using one of these, then you're just trying to get as lean as possible. But like everything you've said in this podcast is like, no, like it's not about just getting lean. I need to have the shape. I need to have the density. I need to have a healthy look, because ultimately that's what's being rewarded. It's not good enough to just like be ultra peeled. Like that's not our division. Like they want almost the effortlessly looking crazy amount of glutes, and they still want you to be yes shredded. But the thing that I'm seeing is a lot of girls, for them to have that density and that shape, they have to get super lean and then they have to spill. Like they're not able to just only diet a little bit, even with a lot of muscle, which I think is something for like the spectator or the recreational athlete. They don't realize like, oh, these girls are still getting very lean, but it's the quality of the muscle they have in specific areas that's allowing it to show up this way, in
so
addition to
many,
peak.
Corey, so many important points you named there. The first one is, okay, so these peptides are used as a tool, right, to decrease appetite. But you can see in the general population that they're using and then you could argue, well, but they're recent or they're not fully approved for consumption. Yeah, but what do you tell me about? Because I've seen people, normal people, using a cigarette to suppress appetite, or I've seen normal people to use vaping to suppress appetite, or to use even alcohol to suppress appetite. So those are not, they're completely legal. They are completely moralized. Like it's not look upon like as something immoral, as something wrong, yet they're utilized as an appetite suppressant. Whereas a peptide that could also offer you other benefits in terms of your health, it's looked down upon because, oh well, it's not fully approved or etc. Then the other one is actually we're not aiming to be the leanest, like you said. We're aiming to have a proper fat distribution uh, within our body. So why do we have to get so lean? Well, it's because when we initiate, especially women, our fat distribution is very not balanced. Like I said, like I always said, my fat mass is specifically whole in the thighs and in the midsection. So I know that I have to go as lean as I can, but to even the fat across my whole body, okay, because my upper body is more shredded, it has less fat than my legs. Therefore, I have to get rid of that fat in my legs to be able to have this fat distribution evenly across my body. And then, but then I have to properly increase the food intake so I can have a proper fat distribution that will fill the muscles, but will also give me that healthy look. Whereas what I see in girls that compete, they go so low, but they never reverse. They never bring that um healthy, bubbly look because they just keep on thinking of the threads and the cuts, the definitions that they think the judges want to see. Because why? Because they don't have clarity of what the division is about. So again, they're rowing in the wrong direction where they should have done the proper homework of getting to understand what the division is about, which is bubbly. Yes, you have to be lean, but not overly lean, and just conditioned enough to be able to showcase that muscle definition, but with a proper fullness, and a proper fullness that allows the competitor to showcase those ratios as as the best that you can properly um stretch to. So, and then also the other aspect is that I'm taking this as something for my prep, which is for my fat loss phase, but I'm not going to take it after my fat loss phase finishes, because I'm not looking for I'm not looking to use exogenous stuff, to include exogenous stuff that is in my lifestyle. That's not the goal. The goal is to get me in a certain position, to help me get into a certain position, just like you would take let's say a pill for the headache. You took the pill for the headache was cured, and then you stop taking the pill. It's not. Whereas I can see that other people, they get used to whatever pain they feel, they take the pill, and then they continuously use that as a clutch. No, like I want to still overcome this emotional eating. I still have the homework to do, and I'm willing to do it. But I'm gonna use the help that I need to in the minimum, with the minimum dosage, in the minimum amount that I can, to be able to leverage myself and to put myself into a little bit of a stronger position to continue with the fight or continue with the goal, which is to be healthy, which is to have a healthy lifestyle. That's it. So I don't agree with taking the drug with the peptide for all your life. Like, let's just put it in place until you, like, let's say, like, it's gonna hold your hand until you feel confident enough to walk by yourself. But it shouldn't be like a clutch that it's gonna be used for the rest of your life, or your all year long.
No, I completely agree. And I feel like that's really important for people to hear. And I think it's something that a lot of people assume, like, okay, well, if I take this, like, am I going to have to be on it forever? And no, it's very much not the case.